The modern currency is attention, but the exchange rate is unregulated. Today, we examine 6 digital creators who traded their biological existence for viral metrics. This is a clinical analysis of fatal miscalculations, not a tutorial. Physics does not care about your follower count. Never attempt to hack the laws of motion for a temporary audience. Your life is not content. July 2014. The blistering afternoon heat of a deserted Texas farm road warps the horizon into a hazy blur. The heavy air smells strongly of melting asphalt and dry desert sage. A silver heavy-duty pickup truck idles loudly on the loose gravel shoulder. The engine-cooling fan roars desperately to fight the oppressive 100-degree weather. 21-year-old internet influencer Kyle stands confidently in the back of the truck bed. He is completely obsessed with building a massive online following. He constantly pushes the boundaries of common sense to generate viral engagement. Today, his plan is incredibly reckless, but perfectly tailored to grab the attention of millions of scrolling viewers. He places a standard, queen-sized blue vinyl air mattress perfectly flat on the metal roof of the truck cab. He secures the slippery plastic block using just 2 cheap nylon ratchet straps. These thin yellow straps are bought from a local discount hardware store. They are strictly designed to hold down stationary wooden furniture in the back of a slow-moving utility trailer. They are absolutely not engineered to withstand immense, sustained aerodynamic stress at extreme highway speeds. Kyle eagerly climbs onto the scorching metal roof of the vehicle. He ignores the burning heat radiating through his thin cotton t-shirt. He lies flat on his stomach against the soft blue vinyl. He firmly grips the front edge of the mattress with both bare hands. He taps the hot glass of the windshield twice to signal his friend sitting in the driver's seat. A smartphone is securely mounted to the interior dashboard. The camera lens begins passively recording the stunt. The heavy truck loudly shifts into drive. The massive rubber tires heavily crunch against the loose gravel shoulder. The vehicle slowly pulls onto the empty, perfectly flat blacktop. An air mattress is harmless inside a quiet, windless camping tent. However, its physical shape becomes a highly unpredictable and deadly weapon when exposed to rapid forward motion. It features a wide, flat bottom and a distinctively curved, blunt front edge. This specific geometry matches the exact aerodynamic profile of a standard airplane wing. The Bernoulli principle strictly dictates exactly how flight mechanics work. When a wide, curved object moves incredibly fast, it aggressively manipulates the surrounding air pressure. Fast-moving air travels quickly over the curved top surface, creating a zone of low pressure. Meanwhile, slow-moving air forcefully rams underneath the flat bottom, creating a massive pocket of high pressure. This extreme pressure differential creates an invisible, overwhelmingly powerful upward force called lift. It is the exact same fundamental physical force that effortlessly carries massive commercial jetliners into the sky. At 20 miles per hour, Kyle only feels a pleasant, warm summer breeze ruffling his hair. The vinyl surface squeaks harmlessly against the painted metal roof. At 40 miles per hour, the hot wind violently roars in his ears like a hurricane. The entire air pressure dynamic changes completely. The mattress is no longer just a soft bed for sleeping. It instantly transforms into an unguided, highly unstable aircraft. The rushing wind forcefully rams under the front edge of the blue vinyl with brutal efficiency. The heavy mattress actively fights the straps, desperate to take flight. The invisible upward lift force does not just increase gradually, it multiplies exponentially with every single mile per hour the truck gains. The vehicle quickly accelerates and finally reaches exactly 50 miles per hour. The critical aerodynamic threshold is instantly crossed without any warning. Over 1,000 pounds of invisible upward pressure suddenly attacks the incredibly fragile tie-down setup. The flimsy, stamped metal hooks of the yellow straps groan loudly under the immense, unnatural strain. Kyle smiles widely, trying to look perfectly relaxed for the dashboard camera below him. He feels a strange, sudden sensation of weightlessness in his stomach. He incorrectly assumes this is just a fun, bouncy ride to entertain his loyal followers. He does not realize the protective straps are actively failing right beneath his chest. The thin metal hooks slowly warp and begin to unbend like cheap wire. At exactly 55 miles per hour, the entire improvised system suffers a total, catastrophic mechanical failure. The stressed nylon straps snap violently with a deafening, sharp crack. It sounds exactly like a massive structural snap echoing across the empty desert. The massive, stored lift force is suddenly and fully unleashed in a fraction of a second. The blue air mattress rapidly shoots over 30 feet straight up into the open sky. Kyle instantly loses his precarious grip on the incredibly smooth, slippery vinyl surface. Gravity instantly reasserts its absolute, merciless control over his body weight. The mattress flies away blindly, tumbling endlessly on the turbulent wind currents. Kyle falls entirely freely through the stifling hot summer air. The terrifying, uncontrolled drop takes exactly zero point 0.8 seconds to complete. He forcefully strikes the rock-hard, baked asphalt shoulder first. The brutal impact generates an unmanageable amount of destructive kinetic energy. This massive energy transfers directly into his fragile skeletal structure with devastating efficiency. The forensic mechanics of the consequence are absolute and irreversible. He suffers catastrophic, non-survivable, blunt force trauma to the cranium and upper torso. The immense rotational force completely compromises the structural integrity of the cervical spine. His brain instantly and permanently shuts down all electrical and sensory processing. There is a total and immediate loss of consciousness upon impact. A complete cardiopulmonary collapse follows just seconds later as the nervous system entirely fails. The human body is simply not biologically designed to survive severe blunt impacts at 55 miles per hour. The driver of the silver pickup truck panics and forcefully slams on the hydraulic brakes. Thick white smoke aggressively billows from the 4 sliding rubber tires. Deep, black rubber skid marks permanently scar the melting hot road. The truck finally slides to a stop in complete, heavy silence. The blue air mattress gently floats down and lands softly into a patch of dry desert thorns 50 yards away. The smartphone on the dashboard continues to quietly record the empty, blistering highway, fully capturing the absolute silence of the tragic aftermath. April 2010. A standard backyard trampoline is a brilliantly simple but highly limited mechanical system. It features a rigid circular frame of heavy galvanized steel. Dozens of tightly coiled metal springs firmly connect this frame to a black, woven polypropylene mat. The entire system is carefully engineered for minor, controlled physical stress. It is strictly designed to safely absorb the low-level, kinetic energy of small children playing. It can easily handle a small, repetitive bounce from a height of maybe 3 or 4 feet. It gently stretches downward, stores kinetic energy, and smoothly bounces the user back up. It offers a very powerful psychological illusion of absolute physical safety. 23-year-old aspiring stunt vlogger Marcus trusts this comfortable illusion completely. He stands bravely on the heavily rusted metal ledge of an abandoned industrial water tower. The early morning Ohio air is incredibly damp and bitterly cold against his skin. A strong, metallic smell of oxidized iron and wet, decaying concrete fills his nose. The metal safety grid beneath his heavy work boots vibrates slightly in the chilly morning wind. Marcus looks straight down at the frost-covered ground, exactly 40 feet below him. He has placed a perfectly ordinary, perfectly cheap garden trampoline directly at the base of the towering steel structure. He simply plans to jump off the high ledge, hit the bouncy black mat, and capture an incredibly epic video for his subscribers. He operates entirely on blind confidence and ignores a fundamental law of physics. He absolutely fails to calculate the exponential growth of kinetic energy. When an object falls, gravity constantly accelerates its downward speed. The final impact force multiplies based on the sheer height of the drop. A grown adult human weighing 160 pounds falling from 40 feet does not hit the ground weighing 160 pounds. They strike the surface with several thousand pounds of dynamic, aggressively crushing downward force. The black nylon mat has a strict, scientifically tested tensile strength limit. It can only stretch so far before the molecular bonds of the cheap plastic completely fail. Marcus sets up his camera tripod on the cold, cracked concrete below. The red recording light blinks rhythmically in the dark, early morning shadows. He takes a deep, freezing breath to calm his racing heart. His bare hands smell heavily of the rusted iron railing he is holding. He confidently steps off the metal ledge and drops into the empty, freezing air. The 40-foot vertical drop takes exactly 1.57 seconds to complete. Time seems to drastically and artificially slow down in his mind. The cold morning wind violently roars in his ears like a passing freight train. His loose canvas jacket flaps frantically against his chest as his speed rapidly increases. He stares entirely focused on the tiny black circle of the bouncy mat rushing up to meet him. He bends his knees slightly to prepare his body for the landing. He fully expects a soft, deep, highly dramatic bounce to save his life. He expects the metal springs to easily catch his weight and make him famous. He hits the exact dead center of the trampoline with fatal precision. The brutal collision happens in a fraction of a single, unforgiving millisecond. The heavy steel springs instantly stretch downward to their absolute maximum physical limit. The immense, concentrated kinetic energy of his falling body instantly overwhelms the entire mechanical system. The structural integrity of the woven polypropylene fabric is instantly and critically compromised. The black mat does not stretch downwards to catch him safely. It simply disintegrates under the immense, unnatural pressure. A loud, incredibly sharp tearing sound sharply rips through the quiet, damp morning air. The nylon fabric instantly shreds into dozens of useless, dangling black ribbons. Marcus passes straight through the shattered mat without slowing down even a fraction of a single percent. The protective system ceases to exist beneath his boots. He brutally strikes the compacted, frozen dirt hidden maliciously underneath the trampoline frame. The sudden, extreme deceleration transfers thousands of pounds of destructive force directly into his fragile human frame. The forensic reality of the sudden impact is clinically devastating. The immense shock wave severely compromises his skeletal structure. He suffers non-survivable, blunt force trauma to his central torso, pelvic basin, and cranium. Massive internal structural failure occurs instantly upon impact. His brain permanently ceases all electrical activity. Total, immediate cardiac arrest follows without delay. The damp April breeze blows quietly across the empty, abandoned industrial lot. The shredded strips of black nylon flap gently against the cold, rusted steel frame. A single, forcefully detached metal spring rolls slowly across the cracked concrete floor with a metallic chime. The camera on the tripod silently records the ruined, empty equipment, permanently documenting the fatal miscalculation. September 2008. 19-year-old internet stuntman Tyler desperately wants to film an extreme viral video. A standard supermarket shopping cart rests before him, engineered for one simple, low-risk task. It is designed to roll slowly and silently down perfectly flat, highly polished linoleum grocery store aisles. The entire frame is constructed from rigid, welded steel wire. It sits precariously on 4 small, hard polyurethane plastic caster wheels. It features absolutely no mechanical brakes, no directional steering rack, and 0 independent suspension. 19-year-old internet stuntman Tyler intentionally ignores these strict physical limitations. He desperately wants to film an extreme, viral stunt video to quickly boost his growing online channel. He stands confidently at the very top of a notoriously steep, mile-long residential asphalt hill in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The late afternoon sun aggressively bakes the heavily weathered, highly uneven road surface. The ambient air temperature hovers right around 85 degrees. Tyler recklessly climbs inside the cramped metal wire basket. He awkwardly folds his long legs tightly against his chest to fit inside the small space, intended only for lightweight groceries. His cameraman stands directly behind him and gives the heavy metal cart a massive running push over the steep crest of the hill. Gravity instantly takes absolute, merciless control of the situation. A heavy steel object rolling down a severe decline continuously accelerates exactly like a freely dropping boulder. Within just 15 rapid seconds, Tyler completely shatters the safe operational design limits of the tiny plastic wheels. He reaches a terrifying, totally uncontrolled speed of exactly 40 miles per hour. The cheap polyurethane wheels scream loudly and vibrate intensely against the rough, sun-baked street. Intense friction heat rapidly begins to warp the inner plastic hubs. Tyler smiles wildly for the camera and truly believes he remains in full control of the stunt. He incorrectly assumes he can simply drag his rubber athletic sneakers on the ground to safely scrub off speed at the bottom of the hill. He completely forgets about the basic, purely utilitarian hazards of standard municipal road infrastructure. A highly standard municipal storm drain sits permanently embedded into the concrete gutter right in his direct, uncontrolled path. The heavy cast iron grate is built with thick, parallel metal bars. These solid iron bars are specifically spaced exactly 2 inches apart to quickly swallow heavy storm rainwater. The small, rapidly swiveling front caster wheels of his grocery cart measure exactly 1.5 inches in width. Tyler helplessly drifts slightly to the right side of the aggressively angled road. Lacking any actual steering mechanism, he is completely unable to safely correct his rapid downward trajectory. He sees the rusted iron grate rapidly approaching just yards away. He instinctively grips the thin metal pushing handle tightly. He expects nothing more than a harsh, bumpy rattle as he rolls quickly over the metal surface. The front right wheel directly hits the iron drain cover. It drops instantly and perfectly into the deep 2-inch vertical gap. The tiny plastic wheel forcefully wedges itself firmly between the thick, immovable iron bars. It immediately acts as an unbreakable, solid mechanical anchor. The entire metal cart instantly decelerates from 40 miles per hour to 0 in a single, unforgiving fraction of a millisecond. The heavy cart completely and abruptly stops moving. However, the fundamental laws of physics strictly dictate that objects in motion must aggressively stay in motion. Tyler's body forcefully continues moving rapidly forward at the exact same high speed of 40 miles per hour. The massive stored kinetic inertia forcefully ejects his entire 160-pound frame entirely out of the metal basket. He is instantly launched headfirst through the open air like an unguided ballistic projectile. He flies helplessly and rapidly for exactly 15 horizontal feet. He heavily collides with a solid, steel-reinforced concrete light pole firmly planted on the adjacent neighborhood sidewalk. The brutal impact forcefully targets his completely unprotected upper body. The final official county coroner's report strictly details the catastrophic, absolute mechanical failure of his human biological anatomy. He suffers entirely non-survivable, massive blunt force trauma directly to the cranium. The incredibly sudden, violent deceleration critically compromises the structural integrity of the upper cervical spine. Massive neurological disruption instantly halts all active electrical brain function upon impact. There is an immediate and highly irreversible loss of consciousness exactly at the moment of physical collision. Terminal cardiopulmonary arrest firmly follows within mere seconds as the damaged central nervous system shuts down all bodily operations. The once quiet suburban street quickly falls totally silent again as the thick gray dust slowly settles on the asphalt. The heavily damaged metal shopping cart remains permanently wedged upside down inside the thick iron drainage grate. One completely shattered, partially melted plastic wheel continues to spin rapidly in the warm afternoon air, with a high-pitched, vibrating mechanical whine. The deeply cracked digital camera, permanently mounted on a safety helmet, silently records the unyielding gray concrete of the tall light pole. It serves as a permanent, highly tragic digital document of fatally ignoring fundamental physical laws. August 2006. The humid, heavy summer night air smells strongly of warm rubber and distant rain. 20-year-old internet influencer Marcus is determined to capture the perfect viral stunt for his audience. He desperately wants to flawlessly execute a highly dangerous internet trend known simply as ghostwriting. This incredibly reckless social media fad involves shifting a slow-moving, heavy vehicle entirely into neutral gear. The driver then exits the moving cabin to aggressively dance alongside or directly on top of the rolling car. The dangerous stunt looks visually stunning and impressive on a small digital screen. However, it entirely ignores the massive inherent mechanical dangers of interacting with moving heavy machinery. Marcus deliberately selects a massive, completely empty asphalt parking lot located directly behind an abandoned suburban shopping mall. The humid, heavy summer night air smells strongly of warm rubber and distant incoming rain. A standard 4-door domestic sedan is an incredibly heavy, highly imposing piece of industrial steel. It weighs exactly 4,000 pounds. When intentionally left in neutral gear, it operates strictly on fundamental, highly unforgiving laws of physical momentum. To make his specific video look visually unique and interesting to his fans, Marcus activates his front windshield wipers. He manually lifts the heavy metal wiper arms so they stick straight up into the dark air like rigid antennas. He carefully sets his expensive digital video camera on a low concrete parking block. This angle will perfectly capture the entire rolling vehicle in a wide, dramatic digital frame. He confidently starts the powerful internal combustion engine. He firmly grips the shifter and manually places the automatic transmission directly into neutral gear. He steps out of the open door and lets the massive, heavy car slowly roll forward at a steady, creeping speed of roughly 5 miles per hour. A heavily rolling car possesses tremendous kinetic momentum that absolutely cannot be easily or quickly stopped without active hydraulic brakes. Marcus bravely steps out of the open driver's side door into the humid night. The heavy booming bass from the car's highly modified internal sound system aggressively vibrates the thin metal door panels. He easily jumps up onto the incredibly flat, polished steel hood of the slowly rolling vehicle, dancing actively on top of any moving object severely and immediately compromises the delicate human center of gravity. The flat rubber soles of his athletic sneakers desperately try to maintain a firm physical grip on the waxed, severely sloped metal hood. The independent mechanical suspension system of the heavy car gently bounces over tiny, hidden cracks in the dark asphalt lot. This rapidly creates an unstable, deeply unpredictable platform for complex human movement. Marcus dances confidently and aggressively. He looks directly at the small, glowing, red recording lens of the camera sitting safely on the concrete block. He is entirely mentally focused on executing his digital performance. He completely forgets about the rigid, inflexible metal wiper arms actively swiping back and forth. They are swinging aggressively at the very base of the windshield directly behind his rapidly shifting ankles. He takes a large, choreographed step backward to strike a final, dramatic pose for his waiting online audience. The thick rubber heel of his left sneaker forcefully catches directly against the rigid, perfectly upright metal blade of the driver's side wiper arm. The sudden, entirely unexpected mechanical interference instantly destroys his delicate physical balance. His upper body tips uncontrollably backward, while his feet remain temporarily planted firmly against the steel wiper. The critical physical loss of equilibrium is mathematically and entirely unrecoverable. Marcus instantly slips backward off the steeply angled, freshly polished metal hood. He falls extremely awkwardly onto the hard, highly abrasive asphalt surface, directly in the immediate path of the massive, slow-rolling vehicle. He hits the ground heavily, temporarily stunning his highly active central nervous system. The heavy 4,000-pound machine possesses absolutely zero mechanical braking ability without direct human input. It simply continues rolling steadily forward with massive, completely unstoppable physical momentum. The heavy, rapidly rotating front driver's side tire forcefully makes direct, crushing physical contact with Marcus's unprotected central torso. The heavy steel coil springs of the car's suspension system compress slightly under the uneven load. They aggressively transfer the absolute maximum weight of the heavy metal engine block directly downward into the small rubber footprint of the tire. The final official county coroner's report strictly documents the severe, catastrophic mechanical reality of the rolling compression impact. The immense, highly concentrated crushing force of the 2-ton vehicle critically compromises the protective skeletal integrity of the entire ribcage. The extreme localized external pressure forcefully collapses vital internal biological systems long before the heavy vehicle passes the point of impact. Massive internal blunt force trauma strictly prevents the compressed lungs from physically expanding to draw in life-saving oxygen. Total and absolute cardiac arrest immediately follows the devastating internal structural collapse as internal blood pressure permanently drops to zero. The heavy, completely driverless sedan silently continues rolling forward across the dark, completely empty parking lot at exactly 5 miles per hour. It finally bumps heavily into a distant concrete curb and comes to a slow, gentle, mechanical stop. The raised metal windshield wipers continue to click back and forth in a steady, rhythmic mechanical sweep against the glass. The loud electronic bass music continues to thump aggressively into the warm, incredibly humid night air. The digital camera resting safely on the cold concrete block silently records the tragic, totally empty space left directly behind the heavily idling vehicle. It flawlessly captures the absolute silence of a terrible, permanent, physical mistake. December 2012, the human stomach is a remarkably resilient but fundamentally limited biological container. It is constructed entirely of layered, smooth muscle tissue designed to process normal daily meals. It has a strict physical volume limit. A normal resting stomach easily holds roughly 1 single liter of food and liquid. It can slowly stretch to safely hold perhaps 3 or 4 liters under extreme dietary conditions. However, beyond that absolute physical threshold, the biological tissue simply loses its elastic structural integrity. It behaves exactly like a cheap rubber balloon inflated past its breaking point. 26-year-old internet broadcaster Chloe intentionally ignored this basic biological limitation for over 3 years. She aggressively built a massive, lucrative online following through extreme competitive binge-eating broadcasts. Millions of loyal digital viewers regularly tuned in to watch her perform live on camera. They eagerly paid money to watch her consume visually staggering amounts of dense, heavy food in a single, continuous sitting. Tonight, she sits comfortably inside her warmly lit, heavily decorated home recording studio. The thick, overwhelming smell of processed fried meat and melted synthetic cheese fills the small, poorly ventilated room. Her heavy wooden desk is completely covered with over 20 pounds of commercially prepared fast food. Chloe confidently presses the live broadcast button on her streaming interface. She smiles brightly into the glowing glass lens of the high-definition webcam. Her primary goal is to break her own viewer record. She fundamentally treats her delicate digestive tract like an indestructible mechanical void. She entirely fails to understand that human biological tissue has a strict, absolute mechanical breaking point. Over the next 4 agonizingly slow hours, she systematically forces thousands of dense calories directly down her throat. She chews mechanically, barely tasting the heavily salted food. She ignores the desperate natural chemical warning signals from her stressed brain, desperately begging her to stop eating. Her body tries to initiate a gag reflex to protect itself, but she continuously suppresses it with sips of carbonated soda. At exactly the 4-hour mark of the continuous broadcast, the physical volume of ingested matter reaches exactly 5 liters. The smooth muscle tissue of her heavily distended stomach wall stretches absolutely paper-thin. The massive internal pressure of the tightly packed, heavy food mass drastically exceeds the ultimate tensile strength of the biological container. Chloe pauses very suddenly. She stops chewing. She stares completely blankly into the bright, glowing computer monitor. A severe, overwhelming wave of lightheadedness washes over her stressed central nervous system. The immense internal physical pressure pushes forcefully upward directly against her diaphragm. This massive physical blockage severely restricts her laboring lungs from expanding to take in necessary oxygen. She feels a sudden, sharp tightness in her chest. Her dedicated online viewers simply assume she is taking a dramatic, perfectly planned pause for comedic entertainment effect. They actively type thousands of cheering text messages and digital money donations into the rapidly scrolling chat window. They absolutely cannot see the catastrophic physical failure happening rapidly just beneath her colorful graphic t-shirt. The exact moment of ultimate internal structural failure is entirely silent on her expensive studio microphone. The extreme, deeply unnatural internal physical pressure finally overwhelms a weakened section of the gastric wall. A massive, catastrophic biological perforation occurs instantly. The highly acidic gastric contents immediately breach the compromised organ. They flood directly into the normally sterile abdominal cavity. The final official county medical examiner's detailed autopsy report meticulously documents the fatal biological chain reaction. The incredibly sudden, massive internal chemical burn instantly triggers a profound, systemic, neurogenic shock. Her overwhelmed central nervous system immediately shuts down all vital human biological functions. Her internal blood pressure completely collapses directly to 0 in a matter of a few short seconds. Total and highly irreversible cardiac arrest immediately follows the severe, unmanageable systemic physical trauma. The complex electrical signals in her brain permanently and totally cease all active operation. Chloe forcefully slumps heavily forward. Her forehead rests permanently on the greasy surface of the wooden desk. She suffers a total and immediate loss of physical consciousness, directly on the live video feed. The sudden realization of total silence terrifies the active viewers. The live digital broadcast continues uninterrupted for several more incredibly quiet hours. The digital chat room rapidly fills with hundreds of highly confused, increasingly frantic digital text messages. The bright, colorful neon recording studio lights reflect softly off the slowly cooling food piles. The expensive high-definition webcam silently and continuously transmits the tragic, permanent medical failure. It acts as a cold, unfeeling digital witness to a completely helpless, entirely isolated global audience. March 2011. A professional-grade gas-powered chainsaw is an incredibly aggressive, highly unforgiving piece of industrial forestry machinery. It features a rapidly spinning, continuous steel chain lined with razor-sharp metal-cutting teeth. This heavy chain is driven by a screaming, high-revving internal combustion engine. The heavy tool is strictly engineered to be operated with two strong hands, maintaining a firm, calculated physical grip. 30-year-old popular internet tool reviewer David values creating thrilling digital content over standard operational safety protocols. He built a successful online channel by destructively cutting various household objects completely in half for his viewers. Today, he stands entirely alone in his deeply shadowed, heavily cluttered suburban backyard garage. The cold, damp March air smells heavily of highly flammable, spilled gasoline, fresh pine sawdust, and burning two-stroke engine oil. He absolutely insists on capturing an extreme, dynamic close-up video angle of the powerful cutting process for his next viral upload. To successfully achieve this specific visual shot, he intentionally violates the most fundamental safety rule of operating heavy power tools. He firmly grips the massive rear handle of the vibrating saw with his right hand only. He carelessly uses his entirely free left hand to steadily hold his expensive smartphone mere inches away from the spinning steel blade. A heavy chainsaw strictly relies on the flat bottom edge of the metal guide bar to smoothly pull the teeth through solid wood. However, the upper curved tip of the metal bar is known strictly in forestry mechanics as the dangerous kickback zone. If the rapidly spinning teeth on this specific upper quadrant suddenly strike a hard, solid object, the physical dynamic instantly changes. The sharp metal teeth bite heavily into the dense material, but cannot physically pull entirely through it. The massive rotational physical force of the screaming engine has to instantly go somewhere. It aggressively transfers the immense kinetic energy directly backward into the heavy machine itself. The entire heavy saw rapidly launches upward and backward directly toward the face of the human operator in a tiny fraction of a second. David aggressively revs the screaming two-stroke engine to its absolute maximum rotational mechanical speed. The deafening, high-pitched mechanical roar echoes loudly off the cold concrete garage walls. He lazily lowers the rapidly spinning steel chain directly onto a massive, dense piece of rough oak firewood. He focuses entirely on the glowing digital screen of his phone, totally ignoring the actual physical material he is blindly cutting. The rapidly spinning blade rapidly chews entirely through the soft, flaky outer bark. Suddenly, the upper tip of the heavy metal guide bar forcefully strikes a deeply hidden, incredibly dense internal solid wooden knot. The hard steel teeth instantly jam and permanently into the rock-hard wood grain. The violent mechanical transfer of massive stored kinetic energy occurs in exactly 1/10 of a single second. The classic fatal physical effect of extreme mechanical kickback is instantly and fully realized. Because David lacks a firm, secondary physical grip on the front safety handle, he possesses absolutely zero physical leverage to fight the massive upward force. The heavy, screaming power tool is instantly and forcefully thrown backward directly toward his unprotected upper body. It moves with the unstoppable force of a swinging baseball bat. The heavy guide bar makes direct, unavoidable physical contact with his unprotected cervical region. The final coroner's report details the catastrophic mechanical reality of the impact. The structural failure of the cervical anatomy is absolute and immediate. The massive kinetic transfer causes non-survivable physical disruption to the primary vascular arteries in the central airway. A total, catastrophic loss of internal blood pressure occurs almost instantly as the circulatory system fails. His overwhelmed central nervous system completely collapses under the catastrophic physical trauma. Total and irreversible cardiac arrest immediately follows the sudden, massive internal structural destruction. He instantly loses all physical consciousness before his heavily traumatized brain can even properly register the biological failure. The heavily idling, heavy chainsaw falls heavily and loudly onto the cold, solid concrete garage floor. The automatic internal mechanical safety brake finally mechanically snaps shut, stopping the heavy metal chain from spinning. The two-stroke engine continues to loudly sputter and idle in a thick, choking cloud of blue exhaust smoke. The heavily cracked digital smartphone lies abandoned in a soft pile of fresh, wet wood shavings. The tiny digital camera lens silently records the dusty wooden rafters of the dark garage ceiling. It passively documents the heavily vibrating, totally tragic mechanical silence of a permanent digital error. The platforms profited from the traffic while the creators went to the morgue. Who is truly to blame here? The reckless influencer demanding attention, or the algorithm that actively rewards dangerous behavior? Drop your absolute verdict in the comments. Don't lie to yourself. If you respect the cold mechanics of reality, hit the like button and subscribe for more fatal truth.